Okay, good.
Cayman's restaurants have always been
Ay, sorry, guys.
a place to get together.
Didn't mean to play that one. Good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of the Cold Hard Truth. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me just get my camera sorted out. Good evening to all of our Instagram folks. So I think Facebook looks good. Instagram looks good. All right, folks. I trust that you guys had a wonderful day. Let's get to it. There's so much going on right now. It's kind of crazy. Wow. Where do we begin? Let's start with some good news. Good news is always welcome. And there's a number of things that we're looking into and stories that we are working on. So, Irvelin, good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Holy Thursday. Thank you. So, Trisha is tuned in. As you guys know, this is Easter weekend. It will be, for many of us, a very non traditional Easter weekend in that it's curfew time. So, what that means is you will have to stay home. It's hard curfew time. So, you will actually be staying home on Sunday, and there will be no exceptions to that except for the emergency workers. You know who you are. Hard curfew, remember, pretty much everything is going to be closed. And so you've got to make the best of it. Let's review some things that transpired today. And then we've got a bit of breaking news, but it's not really good news. So unfortunately, I want to warn you guys about that. So the first bit of information is there were no new reported cases today because there were no, I should say, there were no results announced today because they've been busy working with the test kits that we got in from South Korea. They had to pass a validation process. And so that is where the time has been spent trying to get that done. So that's why we have no new results. So we'll take it as good news, I guess. What else was announced today? So, the premiere had some additional good news about the trying to see who is messaging me. So we had some additional good news about the shipment of ventilators and 500 masks that were commandeered by the US government. So, can I just tell you guys that Trump looks like he's lost his mind? We did an article yesterday. I don't know how many of you guys had the opportunity to read it. Some people on Instagram are saying that they cannot hear me. Let me see what's going on. Everybody on Facebook can hear me okay? I think people on Facebook can hear me. Let me refresh the stream for Instagram, but I think Facebook is good. Okay, don't know what's going on with the Instagram feed, but let me just reload that. So yes, sí, Karina, gracias. So, yeah, Trump looks like he's gone a little bit crazy in that he has authorized the federal government to pirate and commandeer all of these shipments from around the world. And some of it is kind of crazy. We did a story yesterday that talked about Bermuda, France, Germany, even the Canadians have been impacted by Trump's actions. So listen to the next level craziness of this, right? So for the Germans, they had ordered a bunch of ventilators. And their medical equipment was literally sitting on the tarmac in a plane. So you know that means that they're just waiting for the pilot to show up, the crew to get on that plane, and it was going from Shanghai, China to Germany. Lo and behold, the federal government shows up and offers the Chinese 3 times what the Germans were paying for it just to get their hands on it. And of course, the Chinese grabbed it up, grabbed the money, and the shipment was just taken right from under the Germans. That's one case. Then France, they had a shipment of goods as well. I'm trying to get the details of the French one. The German one just stood out like so incredibly crazy. So that one happened on Friday, last week Friday. On the same day, the French government also accused the US of outbidding the original bidder. The Shanghai one in the airport, that was France. My apologies. So they had masks, they were on the plane, ready to go, and they sent in one of their federal agents to basically take it. I mean, they gave money, obviously. And so welcome back, Instagram. Please let me know if you continue to have any audio issues. For the Germans, right, so this now was equipment for the German police. So it was entire equipment of masks and other protective gear, and it was actually diverted. So the German officials called it an act of modern day piracy. 200,000 masks en route from China to Berlin was confiscated on the way to Thailand and diverted to the US on Friday as well. So those were 2 instances on Friday that the US government basically commandeered and went in and confiscated shipments. One, they paid for it. The other one, they seem to have just taken it because the Germans are saying this literally is modern day piracy. They didn't stop there. Barbados Prime Minister of Health and Wellness, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostick, confirmed in a press conference on Sunday that United States had also confiscated a shipment containing ventilators that they already had paid for. So the US doesn't care if you paid for stuff. They feel like they can just take it. And then the manufacturing company 3M, most of us know them for paper products, but apparently they make a lot of stuff. So they actually manufacture ventilators and they export them. And they have various US production locations. And, Canada and Latin America orders directly from them. He instructed them to not send out any other shipments to Canada or Latin America. It's like Trump is a straight up jackass. I don't care about any of his other policies. I don't care who likes him from who doesn't like him. A situation like this demonstrates his true colors. I mean, the entire world is in this situation together. We all have to be our brother's keepers in a time like this. So there will be things that impact us that other countries may have to step up and assist with, and vice versa. Trump doesn't care. He was lying to the American people, was pretending that by this weekend, imagine this is just hitting the US, he was telling them that by this weekend, they were all going to be out attending Easter services and everything was going to be kosher. Everything was going to be fine. He was very confused, giving out misinformation. So when we finally get around to doing that segment about the fake information that's been out there, some of that fake information has actually been circulated by President Trump himself. So despite their lack of responsiveness, which now means that they have not only the highest rate of infections with almost 500,000 total cases. So let me put this in perspective. Spain is second place with 153. The Americans have 468 plus and climbing of total infections. Italy, which as you know has been devastated by this, has a total of 143, but Italy still is in the number 1 spot for the number of deaths, but the US is only less than 2,000 shy of that. So the US probably over the next couple of days will overtake Italy for the number, having the highest number of deaths because of the COVID-19 disease. So they're at 16,663. Spain is at 15,447, and Italy is at 18,200. 279. So Italy still has the Americans beat by a little less than 2,000. And I think the Americans will actually surpass Italy. So despite all of that, despite, the Americans having done by all accounts a really crappy job of managing their own business and their own affairs. Sorry, Erica's saying I'm coming in a little bit low. So I'm going to turn up my mic because I actually am speaking quite loudly. So let me just turn my mic up. So despite all of that, right? The Americans actually feel like they have the wherewithal and the power, which clearly they do, to just confiscate shipments. Right? Sorry, I'm just pulling this up so I can hear myself a little bit here. So they actually have been commandeering and confiscating shipments from all over the world. Barbados got a shipment confiscated. France, Germany. So when Trump was asked about this on Friday, he denied it, said, nope, that's not what's happening, that these stories are completely false. But we know already that Trump is not the most honest person in the world. So by yesterday, the Americans started to admit, and the U.S. Border Control, their version of the CBC, Customs and Border Control, came back and said, oh, yes, we actually are doing it because we have deployed some emergency whatever act. This is so bad that the World Health Organization director, I forget what his name is now, but he actually issued a statement saying that this is not the time for countries, and I don't know if he called the US by name, but he basically said, listen, this is not the time for countries to be doing this sort of thing. Like, that is straight up ridiculous. We need to be looking out for each other. But on Friday, Trump claims that, no, it wasn't true, blah, blah, blah. And then by not even 24 hours later, he basically does a complete 180, says that he's invoking what's called the Defense Protection Act, which is now going to restrict U.S. exports of key medical gear because they are so ill-equipped and so ill-prepared with their own supply that basically they're trying to steal stuff from other people, and they will not let those supplies now leave the United States. So how does this impact the Cayman Islands? On Saturday, we had a container that had how many masks? I think it was over, I want to say a couple 100,000 masks. Hold on. Not a couple 100,000, sorry. I think it was about 20,000. I'm just going to double check. But they confiscated a container that had masks and ventilators en route to the Cayman Islands, coming from the States. Now, thankfully, a number of persons, diplomats and so on, including what the press conference said today, the Jamaican U.S. embassy or consulate, give me 1 second, let me get the correct term, U.S. ambassador, my apologies, to Jamaica, assisted and intervened with the confiscation and basically allowed us to get this shipment cleared. And that was one of the wonderful things that came out of today's press conference. So now the U.S. authorities are going to release it. Yes, Jason, thank you so much. It's actually 50,000 masks. So this is crazy. I mean, I don't know what Trump is thinking. I don't know what the Americans are thinking. But in my opinion, this is a sort of thing when you have people like France, Germany, Canada, they're supposed to be American allies. And if you're treating your friends like that, my God, how are you going to treat everybody else? And this kind of makes me think that Trump doesn't appreciate that there will be a time in the future where those same persons are going to need the US. I'm sorry, the US is going to need those countries. France, Germany, even perhaps Barbados. He doesn't know. So while he is prepared to throw other people under the bus for their own personal gain, I think in the long run, it will be something that is detrimental to the Americans. And this is how you build really poor relationships One guy who's a former US official said it's like Lord of the Flies PPE edition. And he specializes in disaster response, recovery, and response. And he said that right now we need some global solidarity, and instead we have global competition. And it's not global competition, it's the US against everybody else. So they've invoked this Defense Production Act, but stopping imports from their country is one thing, but then trying to commandeer it from when it's not even in your country, when it's sitting on the runway in China or it's in other locations, is just like next level crazy. Lizette wants to know about hard curfew, so we're going to go over that here in a bit. Shannon says you have no idea how many Caymanians love Trump. Unfortunately, I do know. And I've always wondered what was wrong with them on that particular topic. This man is just like Irvlin says, full of bad mind and mischievous. He just selfish. Like, I can't even imagine the people like in his personal life, what they have to put up with. Big shout out to Shan on Instagram. 7 pounds of gravy. Dre Linwood, Exo Illy, Carrie Bless, Junie Rankin, Cloudy Joey, Over Feelings 421, Tashay British, Patsy is tuned in, Game Slayer, New Leaf, Nicholas, Mason, Central Machine, lots of people on Instagram tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. So yeah, we're thankful that we were able to get our supplies back. And imagine you pay for something and someone else just takes it. I mean, that is so rude. Seriously. Well, all's well that ends well for now. But this got me to thinking, what if next week Trump decides that he wants to start commandeering food? Like, what if he says, the Americans are having a food shortage? Are we going to have an issue with getting our food from the US? Because that's our major export country. That's where we get a lot of goods from. So that's a concern. Like, I think we need to pay very close attention to what the Americans are doing. Because again, it impacts us all. Okay, so a number of people are asking about any sort of changes for the curfew because it is the Easter holiday. So let's just go through all of those details. So Sunday is a hard curfew, which we know. So that means hard curfew. Don't go out of your house on Sunday, not even to exercise. Let me just see here. The curfew exemption team, an emergency travel hotline, will be closed over the Easter weekend, and they're going to reopen on Tuesday. So basically, they're going to get the Easter break to spend that with their families. So if you email them tomorrow into the weekend and you call, they will not be available, but they'll be back first thing on Tuesday morning. So grocery stores will be closed tomorrow, which is Good Friday. I do understand that on Monday they'll be open. I don't know if they're going to have shorter hours. I'll try to find out from perhaps Foster's kind of, are the hours the same, or are they shortening them even more, or how that will actually work. So Easter Sunday, April the 12th is hard curfew. There will be no press conference tomorrow, which is Good Friday. So the panel can take a little bit of a break. And there will be none on Easter Sunday, but there will be one on Saturday. So there's a planned one on Saturday. So everyone is kind of hoping that over the next week or two, we can have like no cases or no significant increase. And then that means that, we're getting to that point that we want to be able to get to in terms of the flattening of the curve, right? Now, what we do know, a lot of people are like, oh, when's the airport going to reopen? I don't know why people keep asking that question. Take it from me, it won't be anytime soon. The premier has said they will reevaluate the situation at the end of May. I do not believe that the world, because that decision will be determined, or that decision will entirely hinge on what is happening in the rest of the world, not even what's happening in Cayman specifically. But if the US is still in the middle of this, which I think they will be, if Honduras is still in the middle of this, all these other countries surrounding us are still in the middle of this, there's no way that we can open our borders for incoming flights. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things in the works to try to see what can happen in terms of outgoing flights to allow people to leave and to potentially go back home. The Jamaican government has refused to allow a Jamaican ship, well, not a Jamaican ship, one of the cruise lines that still, apparently there's a cruise that's still floating out there. I don't think this is on the news site yet, but it will be posted, I think, relatively soon. But basically, they are refusing to allow Jamaicans who are on that ship to come off. Because the ship is saying, listen, if you're Jamaican, and there are some Jamaican workers on it, you can come off of the ship right now, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not happening. The Prime Minister of Jamaica said, nope. Keep circling in the ocean and doing whatever you're going to do. But he is not going to let them off, which is kind of crazy. So he's not letting those people off because he feels like it's such a high risk. However, he did say last night that he's thinking about whether or not they should open their borders for their citizens that are stranded overseas. So that is one potential situation. But to be honest, I mean, he said that, but then he doesn't really seem too keen on it because he said it can't be a wholesale reentry. So I don't know how he's going to decide where to let people in from, how this is going to work. Like, I don't know any of that. I think that he might be willing to work specifically with Cayman because we are physically so close to Jamaica, as well as we have good diplomatic relationships with the Prime Minister, and because our numbers are relatively low. If we can go like another week with no new cases, we can say to him, listen, the chances of, someone coming in with it is going to be relatively slim, but we can't give it any guarantees. So he's obviously thinking about putting a curfew, a quarantining system in place where they would stay at a hotel, just like what we've done here, stay at a designated hotel. But he has said that the people who are going to do that will have to contribute to the cost of the hotel. So unlike Cayman, which allowed people to stay for those 14 days in a hotel, they've gotten 3, square meals a day, plus snacks, laundry service, internet service, all this sort of thing, with a deal that was worked out with the Cayman Islands government and Margaritaville, and what was the other one? Sunshine Suites, whatever it's called. The government picked up the tab for those hundreds of people who were doing that. The Jamaican Prime Minister has said the people who want to come back will have to know that the hotel is not going to be free, and neither will the meals. So make sure you know before you jump on the plane and go back. And then when you get there, you ain't got no money and whatever. So Ingrid said, it's not that I'm talking low. It's maybe the volume of her monitor is a little low. I don't know what that means. But I find that especially if you're listening on a phone, like if you actually plug in the headphone jack, I think you always get better audio anyway. So Shannon agrees that the U.S. will surpass Italy's deaths for sure. Their ignorance alone will kill them. It's unfortunate. But I agree. Jessica said regarding the sound, it's true because I had to turn my volume down. So I think it's really maybe some adjustments on the side of how you're listening to it. Yendi is saying that somebody's a top fan. I don't know who she was referring to. But Yendi, we got tons of top fans here, girl. Good evening to Debbie. Jason is tuned in on YouTube. So remember now we're simulcasting on YouTube, so you can watch either YouTube or Facebook and Instagram. So that's 3 platforms. That's all we can do, folks. Don't ask for anything else. So yeah, this was good news about this shipment. Let me just see if there's anything else in my notes for today that is worth mentioning. So there's a lot of technical stuff from Dr. Lee about the testing kits, which are not immunoglobulin based, all these big words. I know you guys don't care about any of that because most of us don't know what polymerase chain reaction kits even mean. You have to go back to science class to figure that out. So the important thing is it's a different method of testing for the same thing, basically. So now they're talking about the logistics of lab capacity, professional clinical management, how they're going to roll out the tests and so on, because the idea is to test as many people, I think, as they possibly can. And I understand that the test is really not fun because it's a long swab that has to go all the way up your nasal cavity. And it sounds dreadful, to be honest. Here's something important that you guys should all know. If you have been asked to isolate, it is a requirement under the law. So when they ask you to isolate, that's not them saying, oh, can you please isolate? We would like for you to do this. Now, will you? It's actually an instruction. They're asking you to do it. That means you have to do it. And if you refuse to do it or you're seen out and about, they're now reminding you that you could face a fine of $1,000 or 6 months in prison. I have heard that I'm going to tell you guys how many masks because we've got a couple different numbers. I'm pretty sure the 50,000 is correct, is what Jason said. I have heard, in fact, that in a couple different districts, it doesn't really even matter where, it is 50,000, folks, that some of those persons have been out and about, walking around like nobody's business, mingling with the community, and that's how we have this thing spreading. So if you see anyone, which the irony of it is we're not supposed to know who has it, so how are you going to report people that have it to the authorities? However, some of us are in the know, and some of us know who these people are. So to err on the side of caution, even if you suspect someone has it, or someone should be quarantined, not even that they have that they've tested positive, but they've come back and they should be quarantined, they should be self-isolating, and they're not doing so, pick up your phone and call 911. Somebody's gonna answer and say, what's your emergency? And you're gonna narc on somebody else. That's the emergency situation. And they should be happy to take the report. You don't have to give your name and number. You can remain anonymous. If you don't trust 911, you guys know you can always send the information to me and we will report their behinds. Make them pay the $1,000 fine because they are putting other people potentially at risk. In terms of the police report, they basically said most things were quiet. It was a good night, no problems. Hard curfew again from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. Little Cayman was good. Cayman Brac was okay. They had, on Grand Cayman, they had several persons warned for prosecution. There was 170 interceptions on Grand Cayman, no breaches. Sorry, on the Brac, they had 2 persons found to be in breach of curfew and they were warned for prosecution. 1 person on Grand Cayman is found to be exercising at 4:28 a.m. and that's in breach of curfew. And of course, when they say they're warning you for prosecution, that means you're going to be prosecuted. Now, remember, they're changing the system where they don't have to warn you for prosecution anymore. They're going to now be able to issue you a ticket. So that's coming in. And remember that the fines for this isn't cheap. So if you're breaching curfew, you better fork up some money. Who has to get up at 4:28 in the morning to go and exercise? Like, what exactly is that all about? Hi, Christina. How are you, darling? So that's crazy. So during the day, they had two persons who were in breach of soft curfew, and they were warned for prosecution as well. Things are going smoothly at the supermarket, pharmacies. I think the banks have slowed down a little bit as well. And they continue to monitor the beach activity between the helicopter and the marine unit. So the premier had a few comments. He talked about the fact that, we're coming into Holy Week. This is Easter weekend, and we can't really celebrate it as how we traditionally would, which for a lot of people means going to church. But of course, you're being asked to stay home in the normal way. There's no Easter camping. Tomorrow is not a hard curfew day. So I know some of you were asking that question. It is not. But you are encouraged to stay home because pretty much everything's going to be closed anyway. So, most businesses, grocery stores, everything's closed tomorrow. So there's no real reason for you to go out and about on the streets. So on Sunday, because of the trading law, restaurants will deal with their soft curfew places, like you can do pickup and delivery only. I think that's it. The governor made a few comments. Oh, the other interesting thing that the police said is that the file for, we've been monitoring this situation with the voice note with what's his name? Mario Rankin. They have prepared the file for submission to the DPP's office. That's the prosecution. And they will make a ruling on it. So he has been arrested as of a couple days ago now, yesterday or whenever he was arrested. And now we wait while the DPP's office decides whether they're going to prosecute him or not. So they will look at what the police have put together and make a decision. And as soon as we know, we will certainly let you guys know. Okay, so I think that's good. Dwayne Seymour made his usual comments, a prayer, a joke, and we'll just keep it moving. Now, I want to talk about some other stuff here, that sort of news that came to me late this evening that is unfortunate, but I want to advise you guys of what's going on. Yvonne says the Trump weren't prepared. Well, America wasn't prepared, including President Trump. He has undermined the pandemic. He's the mastermind educating his Confederates and becoming pirates. Now he has no sustainable approach. The Americans are so desperate. Can someone go out on the road tomorrow? No, tomorrow's soft curfew. So the Americans are so desperate. Let me tell you what they've started doing. Like the federal response has been beyond lacking. Very, very poor. So what the individual states have done, New York, Washington, whatever, they're trying to do their own thing, right? So they have even taken to going to eBay, eBay, where you buy all kind of stuff, to try to locate and find ventilators and medical supplies, masks, and other emergency supplies that are needed by their physicians. And I mean, they're putting their frontline staff at risk because they don't even have the personal protection equipment, the PPE, to protect themselves. This is just next level crazy. So it really looks like they're even more ill prepared than Italy, and we thought Italy was a hot mess. So Kathy says our items are ordered and paid for before the act was even signed, so the U.S. had no reason to seize what is rightfully ours. Modern day piracy is what it is. Thank God for all who played a role in proving the U.S. wrong. Can restaurants open on Sunday? I'm trying to remember for hard curfew. You guys might have to remind me, but I think you can do. Oh gosh, I think you can do. I need to double check this. I always forget about restaurants with hard curfew. Hold on one second. Let me try to have a quick read. Help me out here, guys. Hard curfew. Okay. So I think for a hard curfew day that they have to be closed. Does that include delivery? I'm gonna double check that and let you know. Shops open on Saturday, as far as I know. So Charles says that if he does that with food, remember Alden said he spoke to supermarkets and was assured that they'd have other incoming flights. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to find food from somewhere else, but my God, what are we going to do? Bring food in from Canada and pay like excess? Because if you go through the US, that's going to be a problem. So remember now, most of our shipping companies are actually coming straight out of Miami. So all goods kind of go into Miami's a central port of entry, and then it comes from Miami to us to Cayman Brac. You know, people in Cayman Brac are already talking about the barge being kind of messed up because of the Easter holiday. So Alma says Foster's hours are from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Monday. Thank you, Alma, for the confirmation on that. Shannon wants to know, why does everybody think that we should be reopening the airport? As soon as we reopen, we're open to reinfection again. Come on, common sense. I agree. I don't think it's going to be happening the end of June or the end of May or even the end of June. So Saturday the grocery store will be open. So you know, if your last name is L through or A through K and then L through Z, you are permitted to go out on Saturday. That's your day, and you can do some shopping. Trump should do the same with food. I think I read that comment already. Bread and chocolate open Sunday for delivery. So I think Sunday restaurants can deliver. Yes. Thank you, Oliver. That's right. So delivery from restaurants for hard curfew. Thanks, guys. After a while, all this information's like soft curfew, hard curfew. Can't remember. But delivery, as I was thinking as well. So delivery only. There you go. Thanks again, Jason. Jason's on the ball tonight, man. Jessica, yes, delivery during hard curfew. So South America for potential alternative food source. Well, we'll see. Because everyone is going to be tightening up the reins, folks. So, I mean, it's just not going to be an easy situation, right? So no drive-throughs on Sunday. Rose is here for it, John. So listen to this information. Red Sail Sports has canceled all of their work permits. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm still waiting on some responses. Let me just check my messages real quick. Does that mean that they have also let all their staff go? So I got word late this evening. They've canceled all work permits. I don't know if staff got notice of that or exactly how that went down yet. But I got a message that basically said they have canceled all their work permits. We also understand that Margaritaville, which is one of the hotels, let me just read this. Okay. So someone's asking about another BA flight. There's none booked as yet, but it's possible, I suppose. So Margaritaville is shutting down. I don't have, any details on their staff complements and how many persons that will be impacting. But that's a number of employees as well. Apparently, they were told that the hotel is closing like many of the other hotels. So Margaritaville, I think, was just staying open to help with, this situation. Someone said that, they felt like they were kind of blindsided by this, but I don't know why you would be. Because once the quarantine is up and they don't have anyone there, then there's no tourists. There's no one at the facility. So Wendy, tomorrow is not a hard curfew. It's soft curfew, the usual. So if it's your day to shop, you can go shopping. So this morning we had a very lively discussion about Winnie is sharing a story about a chicken farm application being denied. That's a 2018 story. I'm not sure what that has to do with the price of Easter bun on Sunday, but okay. Um, Shannon says, wish we could get our fruit from Italy. All the fruit we get in Cayman spoils in 2 days. Don't know why this is, if it's our temperature. Well, right now, Shannon, I don't know if you want to be bringing in anything from Italy at all. That may not be such a good idea. Because remember, the coronavirus can live on surfaces. So let's not be bringing in anything from Italy at the moment. I have right. So this morning we had a very lively discussion about employment in the Cayman Islands, and you guys can rest assured this will not be the only time that we have this discussion, because this is an ongoing concern here in the Cayman Islands. We are constantly having a battle of qualified Caymanians. Now, I wanted to say this because I think some people really misunderstanding what we're saying. Carolina, who we were having a discussion with this morning, she said to me, she private messaged and she said, "Oh, I wasn't trying to be rude or anything." And I said, "Listen, Carolina, don't take it anyway. I'm not offended. Some of our readers might have felt a little way about it, but this show is called The Cold Hard Truth. And so there are times that I become very passionate about what I'm saying because I'm personally invested in the discussion. And that is one of the topics that I really feel passionate about, because I have seen too many instances where qualified Caymanians have essentially been given the short stick. And, off the cuff this morning, as we were having the discussion, I was thinking of a number of people who have found themselves in that situation. And there were people that I couldn't remember in the moment. And so many persons sent me stuff afterwards. Here's an interesting story. So I gave you, quite a few, like I said this morning, that I could remember. Someone reminded me of, a young man that I've mentored for many, many years. His name is King. King is qualified academically. He has a dual major in some microbiology, something or another, plus music. So he sings and he performs musically. So he could very well teach our children. He could have worked for the Department of Environment, the Marine Unit. He did find a small position here working for what's the biotech people called again? The ones with the mosquito project that we had to eventually get rid of because that project was not working at all. So he did work for them until they basically, I think, were doing away with the project. But this young man, despite having gone to the master's level with his education, could not get a job in this country other than this kind of minimum wage job at this mosquito farm facility. But you know what? Like I was saying this morning, he took it because it was something. And at the time, something was better than nothing. So he took the job, held the job down for, as I recall, well over a year before he decided that he was just going to give up on Cayman and move to the UK on a permanent basis. Now, you want to know the funniest thing? You sit as a Caymanian in this country, qualified with the respective academic qualifications, some experience, et cetera, et cetera. He's done internships in Europe and whatever as part of his school program. No job opportunities available here. This is a country where literally half the population is imported in and provided work permits to work, which means that we have ample employment opportunities. So in my mind, there should be no Caymanians who are qualified, hardworking, and wish to work without a job. Not only should they not be without a job, but they shouldn't be bagging groceries with a master's degree. They should have the pick of the litter in terms of what they want to do, because our local community is so incredibly small, and apparently the job market is booming before COVID-19. So it was booming before COVID-19. He couldn't find a job, so he moves back to the UK, and guess what? Within like a week or two, can't remember the exact time frame, but relatively shortly, he was employed in the UK, and get this joke, in financial services. He does not have a financial services background. I don't even think when he was here that he was necessarily looking at that, but he was applying to whatever he could get. Hundreds of jobs. Most people were not even calling him in for an application or for an interview. And he goes to the UK where, yeah, we've got our UK passport, but it's not like we were born in the UK kind of thing. And he was able to get a job with no problem. Now you tell me what's wrong with the system. So I received another message. Here's Charles saying, there are people that are hungry here in West Bay. Some are people with work permit holders. Some are Caymanians. I know because my sister called this morning to see if I could help with funds because she's been helping persons in need of food. Things are going to get real here in a minute, not in a good way. Hunger man is an angry man. This is why, Charles, every single person who's here on a work permit at the moment, who is hungry and who's having issues, once our borders open up for them to leave and we start to arrange flights out of here to Jamaica, possibly the Philippines, Honduras, whatever countries will allow their citizens to return. And like I said, some of those countries will not open their borders. So we'll have to see how that works out. But at the end of the day, when that happens, those persons must be prepared to leave. You are better off in your own country. A lot of you come from very big countries where they have maybe ample resources to help you, but at least you'll be surrounded by family and friends who will make sure that you do not starve. I, for one, personally do not want people remaining in the Cayman Islands under this misguided view that this is the country of milk and honey. Right now, ain't nobody got no milk and ain't nobody got no honey. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to be tough times for all of us. When things are booming, Cayman might be the land of opportunity. But right now, we have to be prepared to help the most vulnerable in our community and people who can help themselves by leaving and being with their family or accessing their own resources back home. That is what I would highly recommend you do. So a couple Instagram comments coming in. Are we allowed to go to the beach? Well, it depends on when. So for a quick swim, Sahara, you can go on soft curfew days and during the soft curfew time because swimming is considered exercising. You can do shore fishing, fishing from the shore or a pier. You can't go diving, so you cannot go scuba diving. Somebody was asking about that earlier. And you cannot get in a boat and go out to Rum Point or any other point. Shan is making a comment. I'm not quite sure what that's about. So yes, tomorrow is the same soft curfew. Sunday is hard curfew. Monday is soft curfew. So as indicated earlier, the grocery stores will be open on Monday, it looks like. But Good Friday, everything shuts down. So you won't be really doing much of anything on Good Friday. So Lem wants to know if King is still in the UK. Yes, he is. And it breaks my heart that a Caymanian has to go to the UK or anywhere else in the world to somehow get an opportunity that they could not even get in their own country. And I mean, that situation right there, I can't tell you, King can tell you. I was just heartbroken that he had to do that. I'm like, this just isn't right. So yeah, I get a little, I didn't take anything Carolina said personally, but I do get a little testy when I hear people talking and it's not the reality that Caymanians know about. Because we've been fighting this battle a whole long time. And everyone is saying, let's take this as an opportunity to kind of reset the hamster wheel. Can we try to get it right? If we have 5,000 people leave, 10,000 people leave, whatever, we can at least when it comes time for people to re-enter, make sure before you do that that you look at the local population and ensure all of those persons have employment that are ready, willing, and able. And there's a lot of them that are. Atlas says, I can't charge my phone and have headphones in at the same time, so can't hear anything at the moment, but whatever is being said, I agree. Atlas, you're crazy. That sounds like what Siobhan did the other day. Oh, I've not heard this voice note, accusing the governor of something and cursing him out, but I still think this man is entitled to his opinion, and it wasn't defamation. Well, it's not a question of whether it's defamation, because the criminal aspect that they're applying has nothing to do with defamation. It's fake news section of the penal code. But how can you have an opinion about something that you've not even heard? It's the most bizarre thing that defied common sense that I have ever in my life heard. Like, it's one of those things that made me go, what did this woman just say? You've not heard something, and yet you have formed a very strong opinion about it? So what is your opinion based on exactly? Just because you like Mario? This isn't even about that. So Marshall says it's a common thing. So I want to, Joy says amen to that situation. So here's one of the messages I received this morning after the show. So this one said, morning, Sandy. Great morning show. One of my friends is a highly qualified professional with over 20 years experience in the financial services industry. And he's been out of a job for several months. He's been working with an agency for a job, and yesterday his agent responded to his email. I'm going to send you a snapshot of the response that he received, but please do not disclose to the public. No worries. Please discuss this in the next segment because I'm so tired of Caymanians not being able to get a job due to expats holding these positions. I'm absolutely blown away by the response of the agent. Please feel free to discuss this in your own words, kind of thing. So basically, it's what the email essentially said is, because of the COVID-19 situation, this is going to be finally something good for Caymanians, because qualified Caymanians will be in demand. Whereas before, you obviously were not in demand. But now, because some work permit holders will have to leave the island, you might get a shot at getting a job. And this is the exact same point that Charlene was saying. Like, is the government going to truly utilize this as an opportunity for us to reset the system at some level? Even if it's just minor, can we get some benefits out of this? And it's about taking a bad situation, rolling it around, and trying to make some positive out of it. And I think it can be done. It's not going to be easy, because what you have to do is you have to change the mindset of the people, the employers. And that is a hard thing to do, because a lot of them don't care to have Caymanians working in their businesses if they can avoid it. And there's a multitude of reasons, like I said this morning, as to why that is. We have to continue to have this conversation. Jake says, I got my job in the UK in less than a month of arriving, and I did 3 interviews during that time. So in less than a month, 3 interviews, and he gets a job. Atlas, I guess you're back. These comments are burying your face, Miss Sandy, too high up on the screen, or might need a booster seat. Yeah, I know this is a new system for those of you who missed it this morning. I talked about the fact that we're trying out a new system. Sometimes I actually stand up and do my shows, and other times I sit. So I suppose that I think the seat is as high as it goes. So I could probably do this, or I can go back to standing again. But the last couple shows I've actually been sitting. Marcia says, restart your phone. I'm not sure who she's referring to, but maybe for audio. Loven says, amen. I agree, mommy. Atlas says, I haven't restarted my phone since 2008. but no, truthfully, I just can't hear unless headphones are in. Sounds like you need a new phone. Rose, yes, you're listening to the cold hard truth, honey, and that's what we're delivering. Cayman will be good once it's safe to receive tourists. Arita, I don't think that will be happening anytime soon. I think we're going to be good when we have no COVID-19 infections on this island. That's when we're going to be good. Apparently, the cruise lines have already been saying they soon come back. And the premier talked about that today. He's like, they've not had that discussion with us. So I'm not sure where that dialogue is coming from. But that's not a good thing. But they're so greedy. The cruise lines are all about themselves. They must be related to Trump because they only care about their bottom line and nothing else. We should have turned them away a long time ago. So that's one situation that I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. Cayman's going to be fine. Tourism will eventually come back. But this is a long haul of a situation. So I hope Canada can take the hopeless because they will be an attribute to their economy in the future. You can only fish for 1.5 hours because fishing is considered exercise as well. Matthew says this contradicts everything you just said about permit holders here in Cayman and this Caymanian going to the UK for work. I'm not sure what when you say this contradicts, I'm not sure what that refers to, what statement that refers to. So Matthew, if you could be a little bit more clear about that. Morna, while you're reading, the blue and white line is covering your face. Yes. And there's nothing I can do about that. So this particular system actually does things a little bit different, but for me, it's better in the sense that you can actually see the comments a lot clearer. Like on the other one, they were kind of smaller, and I think I like this one better. So I'm just trying this one out for now, and I appreciate the comments and your feedback. But you guys know what I look like. It's not like you got to be staring at my face, right? Instagram, they don't know what we're talking about because they don't see any of that. Lem says Trump is the Mario of America. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Behave yourself. Aren't those cruise ships still floating around the seas? That's dumb. They think they're coming back now. Yeah, there's a couple of them that are stuck out there. Nobody wants to take them. Some people give them supplies and whatever, but nobody wants a ship with thousands of people that have been infected. I don't know. I need to try and find out what happened to that ship. There was one Monday a week ago that was trying to get into Fort Lauderdale, and I think Fort Lauderdale turned them away. It was a Carnival Cruise Line ship, I believe. It had 4 dead people on board, presumed to have died from the COVID-19 disease. And the Americans were like, you're not coming here. And a lot of other sick crew and members on board. King says, I'm applying to Cayman jobs from over here to see if this economic reset, I like that term, will give me a better chance and more visibility. So King says that Mario should have been more careful as he has a political presence. Well, I don't know about that because he actually can't run for political office. That was determined the last time. So I don't know if he has a political presence, but obviously he was very involved in the CPR movement. Was that a political movement? That's a whole other cup of tea right there. But he was involved in that. And, those persons worked very hard. I think a lot of people are disappointed in how this has ended even for him. Atlas wants to know, is this the cold hard truth or a spinoff? He's kidding. So lots of jobs and hotels that Caymanians can have. Time to start another job drive, says Cameron. Why don't they want Caymanians? Well, we talked about that this morning. There's a plentitude. That sounds like a very biblical term. There was plentitude of fish, on Easter Sunday. But there are plentitude. I don't know if that's a real word, but there are a lot, sufficient reasons. Some are not as valid as people would want you to believe. And some of it just comes right down to being prejudice. Human nature, people often prefer their own. I've worked in law firms, and most of the lawyers, they would prefer to get, if they were English, they'd prefer to get an English secretary that kind of understood their nuances and blah, 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 and whatever. And it's not like, other people couldn't listen to the dictation machine. And, some of it is just human nature, a little bit of cultural stuff mixed in there. Some of it is downright prejudice. Some of it comes down to money and control. There are a number of different reasons. So Jalissa says a lot of banquet servers and staff come from halfway around the world with no experience. So why not a Caymanian? Jason has a suggestion with money services. Why can't they open and use the same alphabetical system as supermarkets? So Jason, you may have missed this. I know we discussed it, I think, yesterday and possibly the day before. So they have applied and they have been turned down. And I think why is even if they use the alphabetical system, the government feels pretty sure that they're going to be like the grocery stores were initially. They're going to be swamped. And so it would still defeat what they're trying to accomplish in terms of all these numbers in droves trying to get out there. So even if you do A through L, there are so many people in that A through L category that would be trying to get to like the one Western Union and Island or the two locations that, the fear is it would add a significant number of people wanting to go out on the roads, wanting to go to the supermarkets, and congesting those areas where a lot of these money services businesses are located. Virginia says, I bet the backlash will be increased permit holders in the civil service. Well, I hope to God not. We were talking about some of those civil service jobs this morning that have been going to expat staff when they've had Caymanians who are more qualified than the expat staff. So Deborah says we need apprenticeship programs on a wider scale. And there's Michael now that has his apprenticeship school that has tons of training opportunities, fully accredited across the region, worldwide accreditations. I think that if someone is really interested in improving their skills, whether it's through an apprenticeship program, formal educational programs, online programs, there's so many ways for you to get a piece of paper in this day and age. And you don't have to be like some persons who come here and photocopy it from their friends and stick their name on it. You can legit earn that piece of paper. You can legit try to get some experience, which is where the apprenticeship part comes in. But again, people have to be willing to give you that opportunity. Let me tell you guys another story, right? Because there's so many examples that come to mind. Charles Clifford was a civil servant for, I don't even know, at least over 20 years. He was in the police, and then he was in the Ministry of Tourism. He did all these things. He got involved in politics. And politics is definitely a job killer for Caymanians. Because then if your party doesn't get in when you get out, you're going to be castigated and penalized for that. And so, of course, that happened to him. He was voted out and, his government didn't get in. He spent, I don't even know how long, trying to secure articles so that he could get called to the bar. And eventually, to the best of my recollection, he was able to finish his articles, not with the quadrillion law firms that we have on island, but with the court's office. And that permitted him to complete his articles so that he could get called to the bar and then, become an attorney at law. He's had some good fortune because now he's back on top. He's back in, the control position of CBC Border Control. But again, qualified Caymanian, has all the work experience in the world, and that's what they're still having to deal with. Ingrid says that when they're letting people off, that they're giving work permit holders priority and leaving PR holders and Caymanians without a job. So we've heard of stories of the Wyndham doing this. We've heard of stories of Starbucks, which somebody needs to tell me. How did Starbucks qualify for essential service? In what world is getting a coffee from Starbucks an essential service? I'm sorry, but that one I do not understand. That is certainly not an emergency or life or death sort of situation at all. Raphael says, what letter shopping at the supermarket on Saturday? So Saturday is L through Z. Cruise lines are crazy, Lobo says. I agree with that. JC says, a friend of mine, ex-husband, was just laid off, and there's still work permit holders in similar positions within the company. And I keep hearing this story over and over again. The guy has 2 Caymanian children with her, and his contributions help, but help out tremendously, especially since she has other children as a single parent with a low-paying job. He's a hard-working, dependable worker, always willing and at work. And these companies do not care. I don't know if it's because right now, they're thinking about the work permit fee. If I lay this person off, I'm not going to get that feedback. So let me just keep them employed. Like, I don't even get the logic. Like, I want one of them to really explain it to me because it doesn't make any sense. And these things are not always logical, I can assure you. So Lorraine says Caymanians come here in the U.S., utilize their tax dollars and have babies. Don't beat the foreigners in Cayman. They help Caymanians a lot. That's a first for me, Lorraine. I don't know of any Caymanian going to the U.S., hardly ever to do that. But if you say so, that would be shocking to me. If you said they go to the U.K., maybe. But the U.S., I don't know anything about that. Charles said, wishful thinking, Sandy, but this will never happen with Alden, as long as Alden is the Premier Minister of Labor. In order to get the changes that are needed to ensure Caymanians can be gainfully employed in Cayman, we the people must hold elected leaders accountable. And I damn well mean accountable. Until we Caymanians aren't just sitting, waiting for change, but are willing to fight for it, things will remain the same. And that's a sad indictment on all of us. Okay, we got to wrap things up here. Arita says Cayman will do is go back the economy. What Cayman will do to get back the economy if Cayman depends on tourism only? Well, we don't depend on tourism only. We have tourism and financial services. And right now, the entire world will be impacted on both of those counts. So we will just have to wait this out. There's not a whole lot that we can do. We can't change what's happening in the world right now. What we can do is control the spread of this virus within our own borders and, try to just hold down the fort, basically. Yeah. Sarath wants the Cayman Islands government to arrange a flight to India. I don't know how that can be done unless you go through the UK, maybe. I'm not really sure because the US has closed a lot of their borders and stuff, but maybe if it's an outgoing flight, they may allow it. I don't really know. But we don't fly directly to India. So the farther away you are, India, the Philippines, it becomes a little bit more of a logistical problem to try to arrange those types of flights. But what you need to do, Sarath, is make sure you contact 244-3333. That is the emergency hotline. I'm going to just type this in here in case you forget it. So, emergency hotline, and they have an email that I think is emergencyhotline@gov.ky. Contact them and express your desire to leave and where your destination is, where you're going, and they'll take your information because they're trying to see where they can arrange flights out of here. But it will definitely be easier wherever Cayman Airways flies with a direct flight to get those people in and out. So Jason reminds me that the correct word in the Bible is multitude. You're right. I was pretty sure that what did I say? Plentitude? That's not a word. Um, Shannon says, I know someone who has the rights to work, they're qualified and cannot find a job. You know what is so funny, Shannon? I have had expats. Now listen to this. This really puts like a point in the conversation. And I don't know if Carolina is listening, but she'll find this interesting. I have had expats who've been employed on a work permit for many, many years without a problem. As soon as they require PR or Cayman status, then they're not able to find a job and then they complain. So you go figure that one out. Ingrid says that a cruise ship tried to enter San Andreas, which is Colombia, and her governor turned them back. They had 4 dead and many sick people. It's probably the same cruise ship. It's been floating around for a while. And Carnival Cruise Line is an American company. And they wouldn't even take them. So Arita says it's time for Cayman to start farming, producing their own goods. Well, I don't know what goods we're going to produce, but people can do small scale farming, and I'm sure that's fine. But as Woody Foster said in this program, the small scale farming that you can do on this island is not sufficient enough to maintain the population. And that just is what it is. So because of our size and even the topography of our land and stuff like that, small scale farming is what it is. Taylor thinks that they have to raise the minimum wage. Anna wants to find out about pensions. Stay tuned, Anna. Next week, there should be additional information on that. So Jessica understands about money transfer. I think you're going to just have to hold on the money services thing. If we get to another week or two without any new cases, we can start to open up some businesses and get back to a semblance of normalcy. So Jason says he doesn't understand it because most of the people who go to the supermarket are also going to the money services business. So maybe. Marshall says Starbucks being essential is BS. All right, folks, I know there are tons of comments left. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut the show off. I ran over by just a little bit. The Instagram feed has stopped. So thanks very much to all the IG people for tuning in. So folks, stay tuned. I do have a little commercial that I want to play. So do not log off yet, because this is one of our corporate sponsors that allows it to be possible in terms of what we bring to the table here. And big shout out to Let's Eat. I want you guys to check out their service and support them in any which way that you can, which means use their app. Check it out.
Cayman's restaurants have always been there for you. A place to get together with friends, to celebrate, to take a first date, or grab a meal between rugby and piano practice. And even though the tables are empty, some kitchens are still full, ready to feed you and your family while keeping you safe and making your meals as delicious as ever. They were there for you, now we can be there for them. While doors might be closed, kitchens are open for delivery. Let's eat.
All right, so congrats again to Let's Eat. That is a local company that, you know, this is all about opportunities. A lot of us will see opportunities even in these sort of tough times, that we can start up new businesses, we can come up with new ideas, and hey, do what you got to do to bring in the dough in a legitimate way. Folks, I'm signing off now. I will see you guys in the morning at about 7:15. We do between 7:10 and 7:15. Have yourselves a wonderful evening, and please be safe.
You don't know who I am, but I know all about you. I've got
Giving you guys the full version tonight, folks.
I think you know the one I mean. She gave her heart and soul to you. You gave her only broken dreams. You say you're not the one to blame for all the heartache she's been through. I say you're nothing but a lie. I'm the cold hard truth. All your life that's how it's been. Looking out for number one. Taking more than you give. Moving on when you're done. With her you could have had it all. A family enough to last. If you had any sense at all, you'd go and beg her to come back. You think that you're a real man, but you're nothing but a fool. The way you run away from love, the way you try to play it cool. I'm gonna say this just one time. Time is running out on you. You best remember me, my friend. I am
The cold